My name is Gerardo Garcia. I am 42 years old. Recently married with 2 kids, my wife, Catherine, and my 2 daughters, Gabriella and Gemma. I'm Australian, raised but born in El Salvador, South America. And I've come here to Canada to live with my wife, who's Canadian. So, bit of a round the world trip. So I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school. My parents took me to church every Sunday. But I think in terms of the Eucharist, everything was only there in theory. And I didn't really come to know about the Eucharist personally until I was about 21 years old. And I had a kind of rough start in life. I had gone off to university when I was 18. And I think I wasn't prepared really to face the temptations of the world, and I fell into a lot of personal sin to the point where it distracted me so much from my studies. I ended up dropping out of college in the first 2 years. Through my parents' prayers and the community that knew me, my Catholic community, I think that I was able to meet the right people who came to me, and they taught me about the Eucharist. It was a group of religious brothers, and started holding Eucharistic congresses for youth. And I was invited about, I think, 3 years in a row. During these Eucharistic congresses, essentially we were in an auditorium, and the brothers and sisters would give talks and formation, but at the same time they would also hold mass, daily mass with the youth, and they would also bring out the Blessed Sacrament in procession for adoration for all of the youth present to adore. And then not only brought out the Blessed Sacrament, but they showed us how to adore and how to pray before Jesus. And up until that time, I hadn't really been exposed to adoration. I hadn't been exposed to anybody talking about the Eucharist in a way where we find out that Jesus is actually there and that I can speak to him. So that was when I actually was able to acknowledge in me that Jesus and the Eucharist was real, and Jesus was truly present in the Eucharist. One of our rules for life with my wife Catherine and I is to go to a weekly adoration. So we have an assigned adoration at our local adoration chapel. And in terms of my family life as a father and as a husband, this is my kind of recharge each week, where I'm able to sit down and pray and to adore and to meditate. And this hour of adoration just keeps me going in terms of it regulates my life. If I'm struggling a bit with parenting, or we're having issues with my spouse, it kind of reminds me of where I should be and to whom I should draw my peace from. Life can get really overwhelming, and it does for me sometimes too, with work and family. But this hour sometimes even without me knowing it, kind of really helps me a lot to find my center again in Christ, and to be kind of recharged by him. I think for me, what it was as a youth and as a young Catholic, I didn't realize that Jesus was actually present in the Eucharist, and what took place during the Mass when the priest would hold the host up and do the consecration prayer to consecrate that host. I knew the theory behind it, but I never quite experienced it. So I think a lot of people don't realize that Jesus is actually there in the Eucharist, and it's not just a symbol. It's not symbolic, but that he's actually there as a real person, his flesh and blood. And for me, I think that's what really kept me from going deep in my faith, because without realizing that, without acknowledging that, I wasn't really able to speak or to interact with Jesus as a person, as someone that I could relate to and with. Well, as a youth, I really fell into living a double life in my college life. So I would have uh, uh, friends, different types of friends at college. I would fall into sin, and I would come home on weekends and still go to church on Sundays with my parents and still receive Holy Communion. And I learned that this wouldn't cut it. That I learned that going to confession was what I needed to do in order for me to receive Jesus worthily, because I was only adding one sin on top of another. And it was great to find this out, because then I was able to prepare myself well to receive Jesus and go to confession before going to communion. And this became a sort of a habit for me under the guidance of the brothers and sisters, religious brothers and sisters that I had met as a youth, because they really promoted this, making a good confession before receiving the Eucharist, and to prepare ourselves worthily, and to be in a state of grace in order to receive Jesus. Well, adoration. So as a youth, I didn't know how to pray before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. I was invited to go to adoration as a youth, and they would teach us about Eucharistic adoration, and they would encourage us to also start doing it on our own by ourselves. And so I think I was around 21 when I went to adoration on my own. The first time that I went, I literally I didn't know what to do. I sat in the chapel and just looked at the Blessed Sacrament, and there was nothing coming out of me. I didn't know how to pray really. I would just sit there and finish my adoration, also just not being able to say anything from the heart. I think, and there was this one suggestion from somebody, because I expressed this to, I think, a priest, and one of his suggestions was just to grab a prayer book and just read through the prayer book. So that's exactly what I started doing. The first few times that I went, I just grabbed a prayer book that I had been gifted, and I just went through all the prayers, reading them one by one, and that's all I did in adoration. I didn't know how to pray to Jesus. I think slowly, little by little, though, as I went week by week, that sort of relationship with Christ, it developed in me, and I knew that Jesus was there. I had come to the belief that Jesus was present in the Eucharist, but it took me being with Him to begin a relationship with Him. I was always told about that comparison between a relationship with Jesus and a normal relationship that we might have with somebody, and to grow in that relationship is to be with the person that you want to grow in relation with. And like with my spouse, when we were dating, the only way for us to get to know each other was to be with them and to spend time with them. And I think this is what happened to me in adoration, where the only way that I was able to really get to know Jesus in my faith journey as a youth, by sitting before Him in the Holy Eucharist before adoration, where you go to the chapel, where the Blessed Sacrament, the consecrated host, is exposed before you, and you stand before Jesus, or kneel or sit before Jesus. You're able to feel His presence and meditate upon His actual presence in the Eucharist, that He's there as a person that you can interact with. And just little by little, that's what developed in me internally. And this is where he touched me, and I think He gave me the graces to be able to know Him better and to start acting differently in my life.